What's going on, guys? My name is Psyche, and you guys have been waiting for this, I've been waiting for this, and today we're gonna do a tier list on the items that were introduced in the 2.6 update, of which there are only 6 of them. It's been a long time since we've done one of these. Don't worry guys, today I will tell you what opinions you should have on the weapons. Okay, I'm just kidding. Obviously, this is a highly opinionated video. You don't have to absolutely agree with me on anything. You're welcome to tell me what you think in the comments. And secondly, this is on a 5BC perspective. So without further ado, let's get started. So let's start off with a fan favorite, the pure nail. Nail is an A tier item. This weapon does something very unique. You can attack while moving forward, and there is a separate moveset for attacking upward and downward. There is a lot of potential depending on how well you can use this item. It's very good if you're a veteran with Hollow Knight because you can just pogo infinitely on enemies. Now the movement on this can be a little bit wonky sometimes. The upward swipe doesn't always reach the enemies on the floor above you, and you can't pierce through walls to hit enemies like you can in Hollow Knight. So let's get started with its rating. First of all, the damage is okay, but it's nothing spectacular. There are brutality weapons that hit harder than the nail, and when you're playing, it's almost essential to land critical hits because the normal attacks just don't do that much anyways. You can cheese blocking enemies like ground shakers or thornies where you have to attack them from a certain direction. Well, now you can just pogo on top of them, so there is a little bit of utility in that direction. You can manipulate its movement a little bit with dual binding or other weapons, such as with Meat Skewer. So this is founded by Vord, someone that's very active on my Discord server. It might be worth something looking at, and I'm not sure if it's intentional or not. But essentially, if you can get something like the katana, like what I'm doing here, you can just alternate the two attacks, and then you can effectively become a shonen anime protagonist. Now the glaring issue with the nail is that its design breaks a lot of the game mechanics. For example, you can cheese the Hand of the King fight really easily. If you want to see this, just look at my Pure Nail showcase video. Whether or not this is a good thing, well, that's really up to you to decide. I personally think this shouldn't be the case, simply because it makes the game a little bit too boring. And honestly, if they were to fix this problem, they would have to fix the enemy AI, which might be a little bit too much. So one idea I had is that it does increase damage when you consecutively land crits without hitting the floor, so when you pogo off an enemy, so you're actually encouraged to learn this mechanic. Next up, we have the Face Flask. This one gets an S tier plus. So a number of things. This item at the current moment is pretty busted, but at the same time, I really do like its design. It's probably one of the most well-designed items so far. So let's start with the good stuff. The Face Flask mitigates any health issues on brutality, or any other color for that matter. This is basically a mild version of vampirism, which took away all of your health to convert your missing HP to recovery, and then you have to find enemies to kill. Now, a number of things about vampirism. There's a reason why people think it's one of the worst skills in the game, and this is because not only is it incredibly risky to use, you have to consecutively find a lot of enemies to kill, because the only way to get back recovery points is if you actually hit something with your weapons. If you kill the enemies too quickly, then you'll potentially end up wasting a lot of recovery points. The Face Flask fixes all of those issues. It is safe, it has low cooldown, and it's almost guaranteed to add more to your health. This really goes to show that this was all the changes vampirism needed in order for it to become competitive. Secondly, there is the Vengeance mutation. Now, in my mutations tier list, I gave it the unusable tier, simply because vampirism normally is just too situational. But now you can actually control the situation. Not only that, since damage is taken at low amounts, you can get it on really fast cooldown with some mutations, such as Instinct of the Master of Arms. So not only do you get constant damage boost and damage reduction, you also get a lot of health back. It's basically the case like Acrobat Pack when you find Hokuto's Bow or Alchemic Carbine, you pick it every single time. This is basically the same case with Face Flask, so when you find this item, you're gonna pick Vengeance because it's just that good. I should mention that this item becomes increasingly valuable on higher boss cell levels. Because health is so scarce, the Face Flask essentially makes Brutality not have any problems with health whatsoever. And on top of that, it has insane synergy with Spite Sword. Now, the critical hit condition on the Spite Sword is supposed to be pretty hard to accomplish, requiring you to actually take damage. So before, you basically just purposefully blocked an enemy attack in order to chip away at your health to activate the critical hits. But now you can do it really easily. You can alternate between these two items, drinking the Face Flask, get crits with the Spite Sword, and then using cooldown mutations, use the Face Flask again. And I should say that the Face Flask does not reset your kill streak, and you can use it while cursed. Now at the moment, I actually think this is one of the best designed items in the game, but it's slightly overtuned. I do believe there has been rumors of a version of this item that exists on the Switch, where they nerfed it and now you don't get any recovery points. I do think this is a little bit too extreme in terms of nerfs. I'm not sure if this change will ever come to the PC, but I do think that you can nerf the recovery points that it gives a little bit, because at the moment, the Face Flask can fit into every single build in the game. It's just that powerful. The only reason I see that you wouldn't want to pick up this skill is if you're doing so much damage already, then you should probably just find a skill that does even more damage. So let's recap. You get free damage reduction and damage boost. You get constant health regeneration, it has short cooldown, doesn't reset kill streaks, and it fits in any build. The current version of the Face Flask is just too good, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. The Hardline weapons, I would give this one B tier. So this is a two-handed weapon. I think the concept is quite nice. It's similar to how the Serenade functions, in the sense that you have to tag the enemies with some kind of status effect, and then you use your melee weapon to deal critical damage and also get your blaster ammo back. I think the point of this weapon is that you're supposed to spec your attack power into either brutality or tactics. You can either main the melee attack or you can main the blaster, hence it scales with both brutality and tactics. However, I do think that you're mainly going to use it in melee since you need to hit stuff in order to regain the blaster ammo, not the other way around. So you're probably going to be running this on brutality. In terms of damage, I think it's okay. I do think it could be a little bit better, and I do think that it's a little bit slow in terms of brutality weapons. So the melee attack has 3 different swings. I'm just going to refer to each as N1, N2, and N3. And yes, in case you play Genshin Impact, this comes from that. Basically, when people talk about metas and movesets, each character has however many moves, and they're referred to as auto attacks, N1, N2, N3, and onwards. But Genshin Impact is a rabbit hole I would prefer not to get back into. That being said, please don't play this game, please don't play this game, please don't play this game. Okay, let's continue. There's only one move for the blaster, and for some reason, the animation is quite long and the end lag can be a little bit disruptive. Now, despite all that, I do think the Hardline weapons is an okay weapon. I definitely think it's winnable. I actually have a video showcase that's in the works and I'll have it out in the coming weeks. I think it's around the same power level as the Ferryman's Lantern. Not saying it's bad, and I don't think anything needs to be fixed about it, but overall this weapon feels rather average. Pollo Power gets a C tier. I do like the concept of the skill turning into a chicken that lays eggs, and then having the eggs explode. From my own experience, the damage from this skill is actually pretty good, but is it worth using? So in my overview video, I did explain that there are ways to manipulate its effectiveness, like rooting enemies, using Hokuto's bow before activating, and it can work most of the times, but I'm just gonna put it out here right now. This is one of the 2 items from 2.6 I will not be showcasing. So I actually tried a lot to make this item work off camera, and I just could not win. And believe me, I have tried. Currently, it's just a little bit too risky to use. First of all, there's no way to cancel the attack or dodge roll while you're in chicken mode. So you're basically stuck until the game says that you're done. You can jump higher, you can move faster, and your hitbox gets reduced. But there is one glaring issue with all of this. I should remind everyone that when you're playing tactics, you take a lot of damage. And since it's a skill, you cannot get rally points back. You have to watch your HP tick down and then hopefully get some back when you convert back to the beheaded. And there is nothing you can do to stop that. So I found some ways to mitigate this. You can actually transfer ice armor onto the chicken. It's a little bit glitchy, but it works. The only problem with this is that ice armor has a 30-second cooldown, so it's not very reliable to use. The Rampart shield also gives invulnerability for a brief seconds after you parry with it, and it can carry over to the chicken, but again, you still take up a lot of time as the chicken, so this invulnerability cannot carry you all the way through the transition. I see it as the same way to the Force shield. I think it's a good concept, but you can't do anything while you're in chicken mode. so it's less efficient than every other skill in the game. Because like turrets, you can actually control your character even when the turret is down, so you can play a lot more efficiently in that case. So suggestions I had is that make it so that you can cancel the ability when you're in chicken mode. I mean, Wings of the Crow can do it, so I don't see why this can't. Or alternatively, make it so that you're able to dodge roll, because I do think that Pollo Power is a quirky skill that can potentially work, but currently it's just not enough to be competitive. Machete and Pistol. D tier. So I don't like putting stuff in D tier, but in good faith, I cannot see this weapon being used in the current version of the game, so the combo follows 3 hits. N1 and N2 both use the machete, and they're pretty short ranged. N3 fires a blast from your pistol in a cone-like fashion. You can push enemies back, and it inflicts the burning status. So let's start with the good. I actually really like the animation on this. I do think that the machete in particular has one of the most slick animations I've seen in the game, and overall it just feels really flashy to use. And let's just move on to the bad stuff. So first of all, the damage is very underwhelming. Compared to other brutality weapons, this is on the extreme low end in terms of DPS. And this is on top of having a long end leg on the 3rd hit. It feels very slow for a brutality weapon, and it can be pretty vulnerable, so using it as a main weapon is pretty limited. So what about as a support weapon? And now we might be thinking, oh, we can pair it with the oiled sword because it has synergy with burning. But why would you wait for the 3rd hit from Machete and Pistol when you can get the burning affix instantly from the torch? There's no need to wait until the 3rd hit. Or you can say, oh, I can synergize this really well with Marksman's Bow. You know, bumping the enemies away with a pistol and then landing critical hits with Marksman's Bow. But here, why not just use Spartan Sandals to again kick back the enemy instantly instead of waiting for the 3rd hit? So again, there's no reason to wait for the entire animation to finish. Also, when you bump away enemies with a pistol, you have to go chase it down with your other melee weapon. So it's not very efficient, which means it has anti-synergy with all melee weapons. Now, despite what you think, the pistol bump actually counts as a melee strike, so point blank is out of the question. In the Steam update page, they did mention that this weapon had another moveset where you hold down the attack button. I'm not sure what it is, I could not find how to do it, and I can't seem to do it myself in the game. So I believe in the Switch version, they actually increased the attack speed from the machete a little bit. I don't think this solves the core issue of the weapon, unfortunately, so even if that's the case, this weapon still stays in D tier. So improvements I will make to it is that, first of all, bring back the alternate move. I'm not sure what it is, but at least it's gonna make this weapon slightly more interesting to use. And I would suggest faster attacks with every hit of its combo, not only the machete. And last but not least, I have considered the option that you can add the bleeding affix from the machete attacks. So in total you will be getting both bleeding as well as burning with a single weapon. I'm not sure if this will solve the problem, but getting 2 affixes with a single weapon is pretty unique on its own. Last but not least, we have the bone. This one goes to the S tier. I actually really personally like the bone. It's a nice gimmick to push players to commit to the spin move. So the combo follows N1 and N2, which are both your typical strikes, and N3 activates whenever you hit something with N2. However, the difference between this and Pollo Power is that you can cancel the spin at any time. Now this alone makes it feel that you're in control. The bone dares you to deal as much damage as possible and decide whether or not you want to be greedy and commit to the attack or just pull out. The attacks feel fast and responsive, and the damage is pretty nice. And overall, the bone has very staple qualities of a brutality weapon. But here is something interesting. If you have the Rampart Shield, you can parry with it, and the invulnerability bubble that it gives you can actually last for the entire duration of the spin. So it has really unique synergy with the Rampart Shield. And this is what I really like about introducing newer weapons. I really like it when new items make old ones better. And the bone is one of them. So here is my tier list. Again, feel free to comment your own thoughts in the comments. This is not perfect, and this is a highly opinionated video. Overall, I actually had a lot of fun with the weapons of 2.6. I do think they shake up the game quite a lot. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.